all around us are dishonest charlatans, boasting supernatural claims in order to bilk the credulous out of their hard-earned money. A psychic who's made millions by convincing grieving, vulnerable people she can talk with their dead loved ones. A faith healer who claims a direct connection with God before passing the offering plate to fund his private jet. And the list goes on and on and on. That's where my next guest comes in. He's a world-renowned magician who has dedicated his life to spreading scientific skepticism, exposing the secrets of psychics and debunking supernatural claims through TV and speaking appearances, documentaries, and books. His work has helped millions of people to avoid the snake oil and to think a little bit more skeptically. Without any further ado, I give you James the Amazing Randi. You, sir, were my earliest introduction to skepticism. By seeing your work, I was able to overcome a lot of my fear of the supernatural. How long would you say that you've identified as a skeptic?
I think since I was a little kid, I think about the age of 10, I was first sent to Sunday school, and they sent me back because I was asking too many questions. Who is this John? And who and what is Deuteronomy, or whatever this word is? They didn't appreciate that. They said he asks too many questions. He doesn't just listen to the Word of God in the Bible, and I decided that I had to look into this a little deeper.
Sounds very similar to my upbringing. I was the question kid. Now, you established the James Randi Educational Foundation, which had a $1 million prize where anyone with a supernatural claim could win $1 million if they could verifiably prove it. I'm sure you've seen some crazy claims over the years, but which one would you say was the craziest?
It's hard to say. It's hard to say because they're of such different nature. Most of them can't actually state what they believe they can do. They can't make a simple, straightforward statement of, I can understand what number is in your mind, or something like that, you see. They say, I get impressions about people, and I can tell them what's on their mind. Well, yeah, if I punch you in the nose, I think I know what's in your mind without too much trouble. But they just can't explain themselves. They think that they have all kinds of notions. But then when you see them undergoing what they believe are tests, they will do things like they say, okay, I get an impression about you that you have had a phone call recently. And the person says, well, not recently. It was a good week or so ago. Well, I meant that, about a week or so. But let's get more accurate, they'll say. Say something like, and this one involved the subject of money. And the person will say, no, not money. Actually, it was about an appointment we had. Was the appointment about money? No, it was just a case of a lawnmower that I loaned to him. Lawnmower, but they cost money, don't they? You see, they would go through things like this, trying to make it work, and beating around the bush and just using words that they had selected out of the conversation. They didn't know how they should test themselves. And at the end of a long thing like this for half an hour, they'd say, see the impressions that I got about you? But when you analyze it, they didn't get anything.
But a lot of people still seem to fall for stuff like that. What advice would you give to people in order to train them to be more skeptical of cold readers, psychics, and people like that?
Buy my books and read them. Or go to the library. That's the fair way to do it. Go to the library. Most of my books are in the library already. And sit and read them carefully. And my address is not too hard to find. Write to me. If you want to talk to me on the phone, I'm on the phone as well. Anytime you need advice or you would like to have some explanation of something like that, look me up and I'm available.
Careful, I don't want to flood you with phone calls.
Oh, no, I don't mind it. Believe me, I don't mind it because people who are inquiring to try to find out more information about themselves and about things they've been involved in, those are people that I really look forward to trying to help.
Now, I've noticed a lot of atheists within the magic community. There's you, Penn and Teller, Darren Brown, Matt Dillahunty, and many more. Do you think that there's a disproportionately large number of skeptics within the magic community?
I don't know about that, but I would say you could look at it the other way. That people who practice magic think about the world and about psychology and about physiology and various other things. They think about how the world really works. And because of that, they have to know how the world really works, or they can't do their magic. Now, they don't do magic. You're talking about the kind of thing we should really call conjuring, making the effect of a magician, doing tricks, things that look as if they are magic, but they're not really magic. And people who think that way and have an interest in that particular way of how people's minds work, those are the people who do most thinking about their own lives and about humanity in general and how it thinks.
Since you started conjuring and performing illusions, has that shaped the way that you think and the way that you view the world?
Well, when I see the effect by illusions, yes, it further shapes it, of course, because I have to know how people look at the world and how they perceive it from their sensory mechanisms, sight, hearing, touch, all of these things. I have to know that rather intimately so that I can misrepresent things to them in a way that they can accept and not be conscious of as trickery.
Let's say that you have a massive performance coming up, and you're about to get on stage before thousands of people in Las Vegas. The curtains open, you set foot on stage. What is going through James the Amazing Randi's mind?
I don't have a problem with that. I just step out, I say, hello, my name is James Randi, and I go from there. It's sort of natural. With people in show business, they don't have a problem each day facing an audience, because that's what they do. That's their livelihood, and it's their attitude. It's the way they approach the world. I think that more people should have that kind of attitude when meeting other folks, certainly for the first time. They should approach it with, I want to know more about this person, and try to evoke answers from them and opinions and whatnot. Encourage other people to speak, because in most cases they like to speak about themselves, and that will reveal a great deal.
Is it hard to find the balance between, on the one hand, you're on stage and you want to be yourself and relate and connect with the audience, and at the same time you're practicing an artful ruse, the art of deception and sleight of hand? How difficult is it to find the right balance between those two?
Well, it's something it's in my background already, and I've talked to other magicians about that exact same question. We just automatically fall into place. It's like falling into bed. You fall in a comfortable position, and if it's not comfortable, you move a bit until it's more comfortable, and finally you can fall asleep. In other words, you can come to grips with your environment. It's a very natural thing, and it's hard to explain it step by step, but people have talked to me many times over the years about how they began to understand the world and how they affect the world by their reactions and actions in the world.
What do you think is the greatest threat to skepticism?
I think it's lack of education, and it's the way many of our school systems all around the world don't take the right approach to educating children. Education to children should consist of challenging them to answer questions and to find answers to other questions as well that are posed to them. But in many cases, it's just a case of repeating what has been written by persons wiser than the teachers in many cases. Now, that's good, too, because if the students can understand those words and they can read the great authorities and the great thinkers and understand it and really act on it, that's fine. But they should be challenged more. They should be challenged to find answers to questions that puzzle them. And teachers should encourage them to find answers. And maybe the teachers know the answers, but they should be encouraged to ask the student, what about so-and-so, just to start them into the search. Because students who find their own answers learn much more than answers that are presented to them by teachers.
Fostering curiosity rather than rote learning.
That's exactly correct.
What advice would you give to the next generation of skeptics and people who are starting to figure out how this world works and how to think critically? As you see them rising through the ranks, what advice would you give this next generation?
Two different things. First of all, technology is allowing us, through the use of computers and information systems, and everything from Wikipedia all the way down to the telephone directory. We have much more information available to us every day that passes. It gets better and better, but you've got to treat it with respect. There are some things out there that are planted in your mind or can be planted in your mind by information systems, by people who want to benefit from your ignorance and from your misdirection. So be very careful. Select your sources of information very carefully. Now, that takes a certain amount of skill, but more than that, it takes experience. So you have to stay with it for quite some time.
And where can people go to find your work?
Most libraries. My books are in libraries. I have an 11th book coming out, and it's called A Magician in the Laboratory. It details how I have visited labs and places of higher knowledge all over the world for many years now and found out that in many cases, they just don't know what they're doing. I did a whole trip all the way through Europe and all the way to China and back, just visiting laboratories. That's what this latest, my 11th book, is about. And in many cases, they looked at me and said, you may be right, and they really thought about what I said. In other cases, they just smiled at me and said, oh yes, but we have our own ideas on how these things work. And they totally ignored me because I didn't have academic credentials to wave at them. They didn't know that I know as much as I do about how people's minds really work. And a magician or any performer is very apt to be able to give themselves a better picture of what they're all about rather than people who are going to read them out of books.
It's hands-on experience.
That's right.
What has been your favorite trick or performance on stage that you've ever done or that you do regularly?
That's hard to say, but I have an answer for it, which is probably true. The next one.
James Randi, ladies and gentlemen. If you believe in my cause and you want to help support my work promoting science, curiosity, and free thought, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/holykoolaid. Even just $1 helps me to continue making these videos. If you're one of my supporters on Patreon, thank you. You guys are amazing. I can't make these videos without your support and your help, and it means so much to me. If you're new to this channel, hit the subscribe button. I really hope you like the rest of my content. Feel free to like and share. You guys rock so much. And together, we're making a difference.